Welcome back to Waterpark Rangers. Let's play Pikmin 2! In the last episode, we entered the final dungeon, the Dream Den. It is the longest dungeon and is going to take several episodes to complete. More so than any dungeon so far, by far. Anyway, this is the floor that I was talking about way back when that rips off the subterranean complex's floor with all the exploding bomb rocks and volatile beetles. It just puts a bunch of armored cannon beetle larvae and anode beetles in the way instead. And there are also some, oh crap, it killed a few Pikmin! There are also a few poison pipes around here. This is, no doubt, a really annoying floor. I really get paranoid about these rocks sometimes. I'm worried about, like, whether or not they're going to clip through the walls, or will clip over the small spaces in the floor. And the anode beetles they're just there enough to be, like, dangerous, and you might worry that their electric shocks can kill Pikmin. Okay. Also, one thing you want to be careful is make sure that those enemies that the armored cannon beetle larvae don't buck your Pikmin off the stage, like if they kick out in frustration. Because that can kick your Pikmin right off the stage and then they die, as you know. So do watch out for that. That's why I tend to fight them right when they're shooting out the rock. Just the same way I fight bullhogs, is by, also because it's just a bad idea to let your Pikmin lose flowers. Especially in this dungeon where nectar is so hard to come by. Like, seriously, it's hard to find nectar, and there are no candy pop beds in this dungeon. They are really just so ruthless. Now, hopefully we can get this armored cannon beetle larva to shoot at the gas pipe. Although it seems like he's just walking in place. Hey. Okay, good. And now we can come and fight him. Assuming it is a he, it's hard to tell. Actually, it's impossible to tell. And it's probably a good reason that we're not allowed to tell. Thank you, Nintendo. And anyway, over here we have the treasure on the floor. Unlike the subterranean complex, they only put one treasure here. So it's actually not so bad. You don't have to go and explore the other side of the stage. Once you're over here, you don't have to worry anymore. But, of course, you do really want to watch for your Pikmin count in this dungeon, even on runs where you have sprays and purples. The reason being is, oh yeah, basically, because there are no Queen Candy Pop Buds, what you enter with is all you've got. It's all you're going to get for all the way through the dungeon, including the final boss, which can use massive attacks to just wipe out Pikmin instantly. So, you really do want to be careful when you're going through this dungeon. I mean, obviously that can be said for any dungeon, but especially this one, because there's only one other geyser to use to escape here, and it happens at about the halfway point in the dungeon. The thing is, this dungeon does have, like, about 2 halves to it, but the thing is, the second half of the dungeon happens, like, after the 10th floor. I know it sounds crazy, but the floors, after, like, around the 10th, are so much harder than the rest of it to finish, so just keep that in mind. Though there are some evil things like this floor beforehand. And of course poison just keeps showing up, and the mirrored element is just a recolor of the lustrous element that is worth less money. Oh, for a second there I was worried, I'm like, oh my god, Olimar, are you about to fall off the stage? And I remembered that that was just the small bit that falls down right there. Actually, one of the funny things is, for the 2-player battle, one of the layouts you're allowed to get for one of the arenas is actually this floor. And, it's modified so that there are 2 extra little platforms built onto it for each of your base camps to be located. But it's really cool. Like, the 2-player battle in this game is a lot of fun. The 2-player battle is more fun than challenge mode. Some people say, though, that they think it's the other way around. Anyway, this floor does have a distinct theme. Fire, all over the place. Lots of fiery geysers, fiery blowhogs, and a fiery bullblacks, to boot. Now, what I'm going to try and do is what I did with the spotty bull bear, but I want this to actually work. I want to lure the fiery bullblacks off the edge of the stage. Because although the fiery bullblacks does hold the stage's treasure, what happens is when it dies and falls off the edge of the stage, it basically, the treasure that it was carrying, like, respawns from above, and the enemy stays dead. So it's really quite nice. Now, this might be tougher for us to lure him over the edge than I initially thought. In fact, it might not be feasible given the area that he patrols. Nope, he's not falling in. No, we might actually have to fight him the old-fashioned way, unfortunately. Or can we just lure him to this corner? Maybe we can get him to fall through this corner. That would be great. Come on, nice fiery bullblacks. Okay, the red bulborb fell. Now it's just you. Come on. Are you gonna run over the edge? Please! Yes! Awesome! And he delivered the apple. Oh, I don't know. Okay, Dr. Mario 64 is this game that I loved to play as a kid, and rightfully it got a really low score because the graphics were horrible even for the N64, and apparently it, like, did nothing over the original Dr. Mario. But in Dr. Mario 64, I'm sorry that I have to mention this, but it's just something that I have to mention because I feel like it. you can actually play through the game instead of playing through it as Dr. Mario, you can play through as Wario. And there's a part in the game where, with Wario, there's this really stupid story sequence where Wario fights a mole named Applebee that throws, like, this apple at him, and his line is like, "Give me back my apple." I know that was a stupid thing to reference, or even mention, but the fact is, there would never be a point in any other time in my life that I would remember that scene, so I had to say it now. I know you're like, you're probably thinking, no, I didn't have to say it, but you'd be wrong. I did in fact have to say it. Paradox Space. The fate of Paradox Space depends on me saying that line at that exact moment. It's for the timeline. It's for the sake of the timeline. And unfortunately, it looks like we have got a few fire geysers blocking this apple off. Oh man, that reminds me. There are these apples. If you've ever been to a Rocky Mountain, like, chocolate factory store or whatever, there are these apples they have. These Granny Smith apples, or green apples, or whatever they're called. Are those called Granny Smith? I forget, it's been so long. But if they're covered in, like, they're caramel apples, also covered with, like, chocolate and this kind of vanilla-ish frosting, and chocolate chips. They are, like, they will turn you diabetic in a heartbeat, but you won't regret it. It is so good. Sorry if you have diabetes, I know. Diabetes actually sucks. Like, it's really a horrible thing to have. Also, depending on the severity of the diabetes case you have. And all I can say is, like, Wilford Brimley, man. Wilford Brimley. He'd like to talk to you about diabetes. Anyway, we go further down into the dungeon now. Wow, already 5 floors in. This place is actually going a little bit more quickly than I thought it would. The reason that I usually feel it takes longer is typically floors 1 and 4 take longer than they did so far. And now we have floor 6. Usually floor 6 is over in a heartbeat. This is literally the pillated staggered floor from Hole of Heroes recycled. There are no snaggerts here. Instead, what you've got to do is lure that greater spotted jellyfloat out of the middle of the sinkhole, obviously. Because if you were to fight it in the sinkhole, you'd be killed by the boulders that roll into the middle, or fired by the armored cannon beetle larva. So let's just kill him here, and then take the treasure before it falls into the sinkhole, and all should be good. And no, you Pikmin don't fall in either. Uh-oh, armored cannon beetle saw us. I mean, armored cannon beetle larva saw us. It's just hard to say armored cannon beetle larva quickly. I can see where this floor would potentially be dangerous. Okay, you, Pikmin, why do you keep falling to the center? I'm having so much more trouble here than I normally do. Oh yeah, one thing I should mention about this dungeon is that, in terms of the sprays you want to bring into it, don't be shy in harvesting a lot of sprays for it, or like using the dual bow trick to get a lot of ultra bitter sprays. The bitter sprays are useful against enemies. Bitter sprays are fairly worthless against the boss. However, I will say for the boss, and oh my god, how lucky was I? This thing actually fell and bounced back away from the sinkhole. If it fell into the sinkhole, we would have had to kill everything else here to retrieve it safely. But fortunately, that wasn't the case. Also, check out the sick reflection in the crystal ball. And I'm kind of surprised it didn't take more Pikmin to carry that. I mean, sure, it took quite a few, but it is a crystal ball. It's gotta be kind of heavy. They're only Pikmin, for Christ's sake. It must take a lot of their little strength to pick objects up. I feel their pain, you see? As a commander, I have to be... I have to feel for the Pikmin. Otherwise, what kind of captain would I be? A captain who doesn't plan smartly and charges into battle and lets a lot of Pikmin die is who I'd be. And I'm that anyway, but I'd be more of that if I wasn't to feel the Pikmin's pain once in a while. That's why occasionally I drown myself, light myself on fire, and blow myself up. So I can feel their pain. And over here we have a, horrible floor. I really hate this floor. This is maybe one of the worst floors in the Dream Den. It is the 7th floor, so after finishing it, you'll be done halfway in terms of sub-levels. But after this part, but I don't think we're really halfway through it yet. Like, I really don't think that until you're at 410, that's when you feel like you're about halfway through. Because things there take a while to finish, and they're pretty dangerous. But this is an awful floor. They just put so many things into 2 small rooms. My recommendation is first pick off the bumbling snitch bugs, because they're the most dangerous things here, believe it or not. If a snitch bug grabs your captain, as you've seen, Pikmin will immediately just stand in place like idiots. That gives the careening Dirigibugs a chance to blow them up instantly using their bomb rocks. One of the puffy blowhogs holds a treasure, this one doesn't, but it's a good idea to kill it just cause it's in the way. And in the next room, we've got nothing but careening Dirigibugs and that one blowhog that we do have to kill. So we're gonna go in there and do that next episode. See you then.